I'm Dr. Sharon Milgram from the National Institutes of Health Office of Intramural Training and Education. The goal of this video is to talk you through your application to the NIH Postbac program. The National Institutes of Health is the nation's biomedical research institution. We are a federal agency that is a part of the Department of Health and Human Services, and our overall mission is to use research to improve human health worldwide. The NIH is actually composed of 27 different institutes and centers, and our emphasis in research, both doing research and supporting research, is in the social, behavioral, and biomedical sciences. And the research that is performed at NIH and supported by the NIH spans from very basic science to translational science to clinical research. The goal of the NIH to improve human health is carried out through the 27 different institutes and centers of the NIH. And although I won't go through all of the institutes and centers that are shown here on the slide, I wanted to point out this structure because as you apply to a training program at the NIH, you'll actually be applying to work in one of these institutes. One of the key things to understand about the NIH is that we have two main divisions. So in each of those institutes, for example, NCI, or the National Cancer Institute, or NEI, the National Eye Institute, each of those institutes has an intramural division and an extramural division. Extramural NIH supports research being done at universities, colleges, hospitals, and research institutions across the globe. In the NIH Intramural program, scientists at the basic translational and clinical level do research on the NIH campus. As you can see, we have training opportunities at all levels, from a summer internship program that welcomes students at the high school, college, and post-college level, to programs for graduate students, medical students, postdoctoral fellows, and individuals who've completed their medical school training or other clinical training. The program that I'm going to talk about today is the NIH Postbac program, and that is a program which is geared towards helping recent college graduates explore careers in research and healthcare in preparation for graduate or professional school. The NIH Intramural Postbac program is a paid internship working in an NIH intramural research group. And as I talked about in the beginning, this is across many disciplines. So you can be a major in a field of mathematics or computer science or engineering or cell biology, psychology, social work, many different fields of study in school, and you'll be able to find an internship here. If you think about it, the questions that we address at NIH span from the behavioral to very mechanistic science, and so there's room for people with very different interests. You can work on any of the NIH intramural campuses. The major campus is in Bethesda, Maryland, right on the edge of Washington, D.C., and our nation's capital. But we have other intramural campuses, some just a metro ride or two away from the Bethesda campus, others more distant in Baltimore, in Frederick, Maryland, in North Carolina, and Montana, for example. You can learn about all of the different NIH campuses and where intramural science happens when you visit the website. Make sure when you apply to notice which of the campuses the NIH scientist works on. You don't want to be surprised and find out it's not where you were expecting to be. Postbacs at NIH work full-time in research labs, gaining skills in critical thinking, in research design, in data analysis, in integrating their research into the broader picture. And the bulk of training really is focused on research training. But in addition, the Office of Intramural Training and Education and many of the NIH Institute training offices provide much educational programming for NIH postbacs. There are workshops in science skills development, in science communication, in career readiness, and a series of programs on going to graduate school and going to medical school or professional school. We have a number of important annual events, a graduate and professional fair where over 1,000 students from the area come to learn about career opportunities in research and healthcare, to network with colleges and universities across the country. And we have a major postbac poster day where you get to show your research to the NIH community while you develop your communication skills. In addition, all NIH postbacs have access to the NIH Career Services Center in the OITE. We have pre-graduate and pre-medical advising. And furthermore, we have a program called the NIH Academy on Health Disparities, which NIH postbacs can apply to and participate in. So overall, the goal of the postbac program is to prepare you for a career in research and healthcare, to help you gain an appreciation for the importance of research in society, and to help you make good career decisions as you map out your career in science and research. I want to go over the application principles because the reality is it's a highly competitive program, and understanding how to best apply, who to talk with, when to apply, and what we're looking for can make a big difference. A few general principles. The first thing is, before you begin the application and before you email us or other NIH offices with questions, read the frequently asked questions and explore our website in great depth. When you go to the website, you'll see that there's advice to applicants, there are FAQs, there are links to many important resources. Follow the directions carefully and understand that this is a year-round application cycle. You can apply at any time to start at any time. Write the best and most strong application you can by making sure that it is grammatically correct, clearly written, well organized, and that you provide the information we ask for. And I'm going to give you some clues on that as we go through this webinar. It's really important to know who you're writing for, and that's a key part to understanding how to successfully apply to the NIH postbac program. So you apply online to a central database. But there is no central committee that reads your application and selects participants. It's just the opposite. It's a very decentralized system. NIH investigators, and we call them PIs here for principal investigators, NIH PIs, or people in their lab, search the database to find candidates. But the reality is, and the data show year after year, that candidates who count on being found in the database fare very poorly in the application process. So you dramatically, I can't stress enough how dramatically, increase your chances of getting a postbac position by emailing the PIs once you've uploaded your application. And I'm going to explain to you the entire process of how to find PIs, what to email them, and how to follow up with them. Interviews for the postbac program can be in person if you happen to be close by or in the area, but many postbac candidates apply and interview by phone. And offers, as I said before, can be made anytime, but most postbacs start mid-June to October. This is a competitive program. We receive many outstanding applications, and as much as we wish that we could accept all of you, the reality is that positions are limited. I want to give you some thoughts on other ways that you might gain research experience post-graduation. So one is that the NIH Extramural program funds a set of programs called PrEP programs. And these are research-oriented postbacs at colleges and universities across the country. You can apply to PrEP programs in a geographic area where you wish to live for a year or two, perhaps at a school you might want to apply for once you complete the program. And at the end of the slides, there's a link to the NIH PrEP program. Another way to hedge your bets in applying for the postbac program, if you are a college senior, apply to the NIH Summer Internship Program, come to the NIH for the summer if you get a position, and use the summer to network and find a postbac position. If you're watching this video as a junior or sophomore, you could consider coming even earlier in your college career. What we know is that individuals who are here and who take advantage of the networking opportunities while they're here are successful postbac candidates. Finally, if you apply for the postbac program, either at NIH in the intramural program or the NIH prep programs, and don't get a position, consider working as a technician at a university and gain research skills that way. The application for the NIH postbac program consists of your contact information, a cover letter, a resume, some letters of recommendation, and a list of your coursework and grades. Once admitted to the program, you will need to provide us with an actual official transcript, but during the application process, we just ask that you list your grades, all grades, not just science grades, as clearly and succinctly as possible. There's a great tips on applying document that you can download for the website, and I strongly encourage you to read that as you begin putting together your application. The cover letter is probably the single most important element of your application, at least for most investigators. And it is your chance to convince us that you would be the perfect fit for the NIH postbac program. It should be somewhat broad and generic, since remember, many different PIs will read it. So you should write a generic cover letter in your application, and then you'll personalize it for individual labs when you reach out to them after you apply. You should pay particular attention to describing research, accomplishments, experience, and interests. This can be through internships in previous research experiences or through coursework, but make sure to describe either or both clearly. And you should use concrete examples and be brief but complete in your cover letter. In general, the cover letter should be about 1 page long. I'm not going to show you a lot of examples of successful cover letters, but I do want to make the point of how to appeal to many PIs, how to be broad, but also somewhat focused in your research interests. So I give you 2 examples here that you can take a look at. So too narrow would be, I want to do this one thing in this one model in this one area. Okay. But too broad is, I want to come to the NIH because research is a part of medicine. So you want to take a look at these examples. With these examples and the FAQs, I think you'll get an idea of what I mean by appealing to many PIs. The CV is another area where we get to know you. This is a chance to tell us all of your accomplishments. This should be both educational accomplishments, work accomplishments, leadership activities at school and in the community. You should make sure to list your honors and awards, your research experiences, and I suggest you keep them separate from other work experiences so that we can really hone in first on your research experiences. If you've given presentations or you have a publication from undergraduate research, we certainly will want to know that. You might want to tell us languages that you speak, as in many clinical environments, being bilingual is a great advantage, and tell us about any leadership and community service experiences you have. In the document I referred to on the last slide is a great example of a very clean and concise resume of a successful applicant. We're also going to ask you for contact information for people who can write letters of recommendation. Please understand that the absolute best letters come from people who know a lot about your research skills. Optimal would be someone who knows you from a previous research experience, but to be honest, postbacs do get in who have no prior internship experiences, and they tend to get letters from people who know them from research environments at school, so advanced laboratory classes that they take. Second best would be teachers in science areas who know you well. And this can be all areas of science, engineering, mathematics, but someone who knows you well. They should address your scientific knowledge base and other personal traits that are relevant to doing research, like your perseverance, like your ability to ask questions, your ability to work on teams. You can also get letters from someone who knows you from work or activities outside of school, but make sure that they focus on traits and characteristics important for success in the work and research environment. So some applicants have coaches or supervisors in college jobs write letters, and these can be outstanding letters, but make sure they understand that they should focus on traits that are relevant to the research environment. And to help with that, we have an FAQ for letters of recommendation. Finally, don't ask family, friends, or family members. Occasionally we see people make that mistake. Those letters are completely discounted. So you upload your information online, as I said before, through a central database, and NIH investigators can go and search that database. But the reality is that the individuals who get offers because they reached out to research mentors and pointed out their application. So that's the process I'm going to talk with you about now. So first, I'm going to give you 4 ideas for finding research mentors. But before I give you those ideas, I'm going to tell you one thing not to do. Please don't go to Google and Google NIH and put in the topic of interest for you: cardiovascular, sickle cell, cystic fibrosis, breast cancer. Because if you do that, what you will find are many individuals in the NIH Extramural program. They review and fund grants in those areas, and so they'll show up in a Google search, but they're not in the intramural program. They don't have a research group, and you can't do a postbac with them. So please follow these 4 guidelines here. This is tried and true advice. We know from talking to successful applicants that they spend a lot of time on this step. The first is follow the link on our webpage to the NIH Intramural Investigator Database. It's also called the NIH Annual Reports, and search for people there. Every NIH intramural scientist has an annual report filed in September of every year, and so you know what they're doing up to date, who works in their lab. You can even see if there were other postbacs, because everyone is listed by name and title. There is also a list of NIH intramural investigators grouped by scientific discipline. So if you know you're interested in chromosomal biology or neuroscience or immunology, you can go and search by scientific discipline. A third great way to find potential postbac laboratories is to contact the NIH intramural training directors who have institute-specific information. So if you remember, I said the NIH is actually 27 different institutes and centers. The Office of Intramural Training and Education is a trans-NIH resource that supports intramural training in each of the institutes. But the institutes have a training director and infrastructure as well. So let's say you know that you're interested in cardiovascular research. It would be good to reach out to the training director in the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute to ask if he or she has some advice. If you know you're interested in becoming a dentist, you would be very interested in reaching out directly to individuals in the National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research. Many areas, though, cross institutes, so don't be too narrow and only take this institute-specific approach. Finally, on the postbac webpage, which you can find at training.nih.gov, is the program from last year's poster day. Typically, if someone has postbacs 1 year, they're interested in hiring postbacs the next year. And so you can peruse the book, you can read titles, you even get the name of a postbac that you might be able to reach out to for advice. So that's the 4th way that we recommend that individuals search for research mentors. So without a doubt, you need to find a postbac that is in a research group in an area that interests you, where you will learn skills and ideas relevant for your future career. However, it's also important to remember that you need to be in a supportive environment where you will grow and learn. Now, one size does not fit all in research environments, and each of us thrives in a different type of learning environment and a different type of research group. So there are two resources that I want to stress and encourage you to use that help you think about finding quality research mentorship and finding the best possible environment for you. The first is a written document that takes you through questions you should be asking, things you should be thinking about, and gives you a sense of how to find the research environment that's right for you. And the second is a YouTube video on the same channel where you found this video that guides you through the process. I strongly encourage you to find these resources, to read them carefully, watch them, listen, consider what's there, because we know from talking to prior postbacs that the single biggest thing that determines success is being in the right research environment. We don't want you to find yourself in an environment that doesn't work for you. So please take a look at these resources. So I want to just guide you through that process of looking for potential research mentors. First, start at training.nih.gov. I can't stress enough to explore other areas of the website, not just the postbac application page. I think you'll find a wealth of career information. But today I'm going to highlight how to find research mentors. So click on the big button that says Prospective Applicants. This will take you to the postbac page. Now, if you look down the right side of the page are a variety of resources, including a link to the Intramural Investigator Database, links to the NIH Institute training directors, the FAQs, the tips on writing a successful application. These are all the resources I've been encouraging you to use. To actually find potential research mentors, if you want to search the annual reports, you'll click at the bottom where I marked it by the arrow. You're going to get to a box that allows you to choose the year, and you're going to pick the latest year, and then it will allow you to put some words in to search. You can search in a variety of ways, but I'm mostly going to go over searching by keyword. You don't want to put in keywords that are too broad. For example, cancer or cardiovascular disease. Those are probably too broad. But you don't want to use too narrow of a search either. So if you put in a very narrow search term, you only get back 1 or 2 investigators. Just try to expand a little bit to increase the number of investigators that come back. You can use techniques. Let's say you want to come here to learn some fMRI imaging or other imaging techniques. You can use diseases, model systems, organs, physiological processes, anything that will give you insight into a research group doing the type of research that you want to do. Once you do a search, you will read the research in each of the investigator pages. Don't be terribly intimidated if you can't understand everything there. These are pretty technical documents written for a technical audience. That said, it should give you a sense of whether you're generally interested in the area. It also will give you the name of people that work in the lab. What you'll need to do is find the email address of investigators using the NIH Enterprise Directory, or NED, and a link to NED is on the web page that I showed you in the previous slides. And then you'll reach out to NIH Intramural investigators with personalized emails. So I can't stress that enough. No generic spamming. Dear scientists, I'd like to work in your lab. Many of us get many of these generic emails, and we rarely respond and rarely make an offer to someone who sends a generic email. You want to introduce yourself, include a brief discussion of why you're interested in working in that research group specifically. If you can tie it to a particular college experience, that's great. If you can tie your interest to a particular future experience, that's great. You just need some rationale for reaching out to that investigator. You also want to talk about your previous research experiences. If you can tie it to this current research group, that's great. I already have experience in epidemiological research, so I'm a perfect fit for your epi group. That's terrific. But you don't have to do that. That said, even if it's not connected, point out the general things that you learned, communication skills, teamwork, that a lot of science doesn't work and you just have to persevere. Point out why you're interested in being an NIH postbac. Is this to prepare for a career in clinical research? Is this to explore your options? Is this to gain expertise in computational biology before you go on to graduate school? And make it very, very easy for them to learn more about you. And by this I mean provide your CV as an attachment and let them know that you have already applied to the postbac program. Now in this slide, I show you a letter that comes from a successful applicant, and our FAQs and our guide to writing successful applications gives you a lot of coaching on what to say. These emails do not need to be very long, they do not need to be in depth, but they do need to be personalized in some way. Always people email me and say, how many of these do I need to send? And it's very hard to give you an exact number because some people send only 1 or 2 and have success. Some people send 20 and are successful. Some people send 20 and aren't successful. If you get discouraged, email me. My email address is at the end. Furthermore, actually, if you want some feedback on your letter before you send it, just email me. I won't read it and edit it. You need to get other mentors to do that. But I will read it and give you a little bit of feedback about whether it's heading in the right direction or not. Now, you write materials to get an interview, and then it's the interview that really matters. So 4 things that you might be asked about. So 4 things you should be prepared to talk about. Some previous research experience. And again, if you haven't had previous research experience, talk about what you learned in classrooms and in research labs that prepare you for the postbac. You might be asked about techniques or languages, computer languages, statistical packages that you know about. Some NIH investigators like you to come in with some experience useful for them. Some are just looking for a good, exciting candidate to come in and are happy to train you, but some might ask you about techniques you know. You will likely be asked why my research group, and you will be asked your career goals, and you may be asked your intentions for staying only 1 or 2 years in the postbac position. Some investigators prefer people staying for 2 years. Some investigators are happy to accept an applicant willing to make only a 1-year commitment. You should have questions to ask of them. So it's not a good practice when people say, do you have any questions for me, to say no. So you might ask them about previous postbacs, what they're doing now. You might ask about your daily supervisor, the types of projects you can work on, and the techniques that you might be able to learn. Also, remember that mentoring article and video I referred to. You might want to ask some of the questions there. So you'll want to be prepared for the interview by practicing talking about yourself, your goals, and your experiences. And then you'll want to practice asking questions and knowing what the questions are. You don't want to have to think about that in real time. Once an NIH investigator makes an offer, you will need to let them know within their time frame whether you accept or not. I encourage you to think carefully about whether it's the right offer before saying yes, but I also encourage you to be realistic that this is a competitive program, and sometimes we don't get exactly the project or group that we want, but it's still a positive learning experience. I want to make a couple comments about tips for success once you get in. Quite frankly, getting in is only the first step. We really want you to have an outstanding experience, and we really want you to leave here ready for your next career step. So be sure that you have the right academic preparation for the work you're doing. If they are expecting you to have certain hands-on skills, read about those techniques in advance. Make sure that you're ready for a professional work experience. It can be a sort of surprising transition from college to a government research facility. This is a job. It's also a training experience where you're here to grow and learn, but the reality is you're also here to make major contributions to the research enterprise. So make sure you're ready for that and that you understand what you're going to be doing. Get to know the NIH and all of the resources available. This is a big campus. It also can be a warm and friendly campus. But if you don't know where to go for help or you don't know who to go to for guidance, you can get lost here quickly. So you know the NIH Office of Intramural Training and Education already, and you met me here on the video. So this is one place to come. We have a moving guide, we have orientation programs, we have a postbac handbook. We are here to talk with you at any time. The Institute training offices have a lot of resources to help you as well. And there are many, many activities once you get here. So read the section on our website of getting started, join the right groups, get on the right listservs, come and meet us. Make sure to make a plan for your scientific and professional success and reach out to us to get help following it. This wraps up my video on applying to the postbac program. There are many other resources on our webpage. The NIH is very vested in the future of our science students. Our postbacs in the intramural program are one of our favorite populations of students. We want you to get in, we want you to come here, we want you to thrive, we want you to make a difference in research and healthcare. Email me if you have any questions. My email address is here on the slide. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Join the NIH Intramural Science LinkedIn group to learn more about intramural training and visit the websites listed here. Thank you, and I hope to see you on campus someday.